So guys, thanks a lot for coming. I know there's a lot of interesting other stuff going on, so appreciate that you guys are here. Again, for anyone maybe who doesn't know us, I'm Eugene, this is Matan, we're from ControlUp.
Hey guys.
And basically the idea behind this session was that always when we first demo in the keynote or the first session of E2E, we always kind of try to go through the new stuff that's in ControlUp and summarize a little bit what ControlUp does. And it never gets too deep. I feel like it doesn't get deep enough for the audience that's here. So I figured it would be a good idea to take some of the more advanced scenarios or some of the stuff that we are really proud of in ControlUp and some of the stuff that we find the most interesting and share with you, let's say, like the best, like the best and advanced stuff that we do in ControlUp. Now, this is going to be about three things. First of all, we're going to show you a little bit some visualization techniques of real-time data that we use in ControlUp, and it's basically as tools for you guys to use when you're firefighting a real-time issue and something really wrong right now. So we'll try to show you some techniques on how we do it with ControlUp. The second thing will be about scripting and how do you integrate scripting with ControlUp and what does it give you and how can it help the community. And the third time is a continuation of the scripting effort, but we're going to show you a little bit of what our user community has been contributing to us in terms of scripts. And we'll show you specifically two pretty advanced cases of integrating scripted troubleshooting scenarios into ControlUp, which have to do with Procmon and ETW, perhaps tools that you guys are familiar with, but what the power of those tools integrated into ControlUp, what it can do and how it can help you troubleshoot. So let's just start with ControlUp, the processes view. Okay, so normally with ControlUp we always go to the hosts or computers view when we show the top-down troubleshooting. So we see a host misbehaving, then we drill down into it. So that's like, you have seen this scenario many times. Now, what I would like to address now is the reverse, right? To try to look at bottom-up. So as you may know, with ControlUp, we're looking at all the processes on all the machines that we're monitoring. So think of this as a task manager connected to all of your computers. So in this case, it's about 20,000 processes on all my different machines. This is a lab with about 100 monitor machines. Okay, so not huge, right? But maybe realistically representing a small IT environment. Now, as you may notice, Matan just can you show just how you did it? So you can actually play with the row height in ControlUp. So by default, the rows are like this big.
Just double click.
You can make it smaller, so that you can fit more data, and I feel like this is more fitting for the processes because there's more of them and they're more dense. So let's see what kind of cool stuff can you do. First of all, you can notice that right now it's ordered by CPU, right? So the processes that are consuming the most CPU in my entire environment kind of show up on top, which is nice, and again, this supports our scenarios of troubleshooting and drilling down into the interesting cases. I guarantee you that any environment in which you take and you sort like that, you're going to discover something interesting. Some of the top processes are always going to be something interesting. But let me show you a couple of other techniques, maybe not as expected, that help us troubleshoot issues and see issues in real time. Let's sort this grid by start time. So that, so just click the start time button again, right? Click again so that it will be descending order, right? Right, so and scroll all the way up to the top. So right now, this basically shows you, and can you drag the command line to the left?
Of course.
And then zoom in a little bit so that we can see what's going on. Okay, so if you can zoom in a little bit more. Right now, I hope you guys can see.
Can you see
better?
Yes.
So this is a list of all the processes that are getting launched now in real time, and since it's sorted by start time, so in real time we see the new processes that are appearing, which is nice because you get a view of the different machines. Now if you guys just stare at it for a few seconds like that, you can see that some WMI stuff is happening, some PowerShell stuff is happening on those machines, some Python is running, services. So this is just visualizing like the regular behavior. Sometimes you can spot stuff here that is weird or interesting. Like for example, even PowerShell, right? So let's use maybe, can you use the search bar and just search for PowerShell for us? Yeah. So if you sort it like that, and you sort of look at the command line, you can see who are the people launching PowerShell, what are the PowerShell instances, what is the command line associated with those PowerShell instances. If you want to look, for example, at PowerShell and CMD, maybe someone's using CMD as well. So all you need to do in ControlUp is just use the pipe and pipe operator and also run CMD. Now you'll see all the processes that contain either PowerShell or CMD, so you get some combination of both. So I like to use this technique to compare, because this way you can see two different processes, two different applications, two different users side by side. Very interesting sometimes to do stuff like that. So in this case, this is just a way of visualizing the real-time stuff that's happening. Now, let's try to think of a process that when it wakes up, when it spawns, it means trouble. Okay, I can think of one thing like that, which is the Windows error reporting, right? Yeah, trusted installer is always also interesting. By the, can you do WER fault? Okay, so if we look for WER, so and you can zoom in, so basically this process spawns up anytime there's an error with the application, right? So this is the error reporting process. So anytime it spawns, it means something wrong is going on. So you can see in real time, even it includes the -P, it includes the P, hello. It includes the PID of the process that just experienced the error. And so in real time, you can see stuff like that that's happening. In the real environment, which is larger than this, you can visualize real-time problems that are going on. Now, another way to spot application errors is a different technique. So, can you zoom out? And let's sort this by exit code. Okay, because we do have the exit code for every process. Now, the way it's happening, you see all the processes running, right? And normally all the processes that you see, they're alive, right? But when they exit, they're still kept in the console for a few seconds. And we do update the exit code if we get it, right? We do get it always, but we update the exit code. So right now what Matan did is sort this table by exit code. And if you scroll to the upside, you can see that exit code 1 or anything that's not exit code 0, right? Usually means there's an error. Usually means there's a problem. Now, I guarantee you in most of the environments, if you look at all the processes that exit with non-zero error codes, you're also going to discover some interesting stuff, right? And now in real time, even without knowing which problems am I experiencing, if I'm just sort by exit code, I can see that Java is crashing here. What did you do?
Guess what? Now you notice.
Not enough water.
Can you see this on console? Yeah, his laptop is underwater.
His laptop. I wish it was his laptop.
It's not my laptop. That's my laptop.
Right. So sorting by exit code like that, you can right away spot which processes are crashing in real time. It's only for a short period of time that they actually blink and appear on the screen. But if you're sharp enough, you can always look at this. And of course, you can set alerts for that. But I'm just saying this is a visualization technique that we use in real time, even without knowing that there was an issue going on. Just exploring your data like that can be very, very helpful sometimes. So this is a little bit about the flat views and looking for specific processes. Do you guys have any interesting suggestions or questions about this part? Like, can you have any ideas like what you can do with this?
Register, put an alert in the exit code and register one application
went wrong at that point. You can get a nice list at the end of the week. How many errors from what application?
Exactly, and another thing that our customers are doing with that is actually looking at the history of the different applications with the different error codes, and there's always something interesting happening behind it, and even discovering what is normal, what is not a problem is good. So, as you can maybe see, we extended a little bit this view in the recent versions. Can you zoom in just on those columns in the middle? Yeah. I want to see the network and disk. So, yeah, we need to move a little bit to the left. So, basically what we did recently was we expanded the processes view so that we see for each process what is it doing to the disk and what is it doing to the network. It used to be grouped together, like with process I/O, but we split it into actual disk and network activity. Now, as you can see, we can now actually see which processes are touching the disk, which processes are talking to the network. But many times when we actually look at those scenarios, the question, it sort of begs another question, right? So this process is touching the disk. What is it doing to the disk? This process is talking to the network. Where is it going to the network? How much data is it sending there? Now, what tools would you guys use to research something like that today? No, but if you want to go beyond that, right? Just the process is touching the disk now. What you would normally use to see what is it touching on the disk? Why is it writing to the disk? What is it? Sorry? Perf mode. Okay. The resource monitor actually sometimes, so the perf mode counters will tell you in more detail, but it will not show you, for example, the handles, like what is the process touching actually at the disk. If you want to see a process is talking to the network, it's sending huge amounts of data to the network. Where is it sending this data, right? What would you use to look at that? Wireshark, okay, for example, right? It's a good example of a sniffing tool. Okay, by the way, I'm sorry, this was great feedback by all of you. So this is Wireshark.
You got two now.
So the problem with Wireshark is that you need it in context, and you need it as a tool right now. You need it in your toolbox. Now, if there's a machine over there that's right now sending data to the network somewhere, and you want to record it, and you want to retrieve the information about where is it sending the data, so you need to connect to that machine. You need to download or install Wireshark if it's not there, because usually it's not installed, right? Not normally. You're going to need to install Wireshark there. You're going to need to sit at that machine, spin up a capture. Maybe by the time you do that, the process is no longer talking to the network. Everything is done, right? So what we are trying to do is sort of streamline this process and connect it. And let me dive into the script-based actions mechanism. We need to explain it to you a little bit more before we see how exactly we achieve it. Okay? So I'd like you to please open the script-based actions screen for us. So basically, those are the. So let me just explain to you what is the script-based action, and the best way to do it, I guess. Let's just use some script-based actions and see if it makes any sense. So basically, a script-based action is a script that's packaged into ControlUp. We have a community gallery of those, which we're going to discuss in a few minutes from now. We have the ones that are already installed in my organization, which is on the second tab. So those are the scripts that I already downloaded and installed in my organization. And in my drafts, here, the actions that live here is stuff that I authored, right? So I personally started writing some scripts, and this is where they stored before we actually published them to the organization or to the community, right? So this just to make sense of this screen a little bit. Now let's try to take, can you please focus on my ZF 65 farm here? I still have it in the museum here. So let's just take it, just makes a good point. Okay, so let's go to the computer's view. And what I want to do is show you guys how we take a script, a really basic one, and use it as a script-based action. So right-click those, just search for GPO, and it will appear there because there's too many different options here, but see, in script-based actions, we have a script-based action called list computer GPO. Now, it's a fairly simple PowerShell script. It runs on the computer side, okay? It retrieves the list of GPOs that the computer is, that are applied for this computer. And what Matan just did was select a bunch of computers, run this script-based actions on those computers, not run this specific script-based action, and got the output. Now, as you can see, the output is now grouped into 3 groups, right? Can you zoom in a little bit more? So there are 3 groups of output, okay? The first group, click on the first group, only includes 1 computer. And this is the list of GPOs. This is the output of that script-based action on that computer. So what happened here was this script got executed on the target of that computer. The output was brought back. And the second group, as you can see, it includes also 1 computer. And the third group will include 4 computers. So those 4 computers had the same output. They have the same GPOs applied to them. So what I just did basically was take a group of targets, run the script there, and compare the output. Now, the script, it's up to you what the script outputs. It can, you can perform a specific test. It can output something like, it's enabled, it's disabled. It works, it doesn't work. It can output yes or no, okay? And you can quickly run it on any number of targets and get 2 groups. This is a yes group, and this is a no group, okay? So this helps you sort of expand the amount of information that our console offers, in this case by retrieving the GPOs. Now, one simple thing that you probably guys already figured out, this script is getting executed locally at that computer, so no PowerShell remoting here. We're sending it to the machine, executing it locally, and then bringing the output. In this case, this script was executed as system, as local system, okay, on that machine. You can use any other credentials, but it's important to understand that in this case, this was executed in the context of the computer, okay, on the target computer. Now let's see something different, okay? Let's look at the sessions view. Maybe remove the focus some more, and let's just grab one session. Doesn't really matter which, and let's do. Let's do the login script, the GPO login script. So basically, this one is going to run a script that this is already my previous execution, but it's okay. You can scroll down here. See, this is the session that you run it on. Yes.
This.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, if you can zoom into the output.
Let's give it a sec. It's still running.
Okay. No, never mind. We have already some results from my previous run. Okay. So as you can see, all of those sessions on which I already ran it previously, the output for the SBA for the script-based action was no group policy login scripts found, because it didn't find any login scripts assigned to those users. Now, what's different about this SBA is that it's running in the user context. So I'm running something on behalf of the user. I'm running it inside the user session, bringing the results back and comparing, which is not impossible to achieve without ControlUp, but it's just a pain in the neck to achieve without ControlUp. So if you want to right now run something inside the user session somewhere and bring back the result for analysis, right? Again, you can ask the user to run it, you can call them on the phone, you can send them the script, you can do all sorts of things, but nothing would be as easy as this. Now, just to prove to you how easy it is, and this is something that we're doing for the first time in this way, but let's just try to build a simple script-based action here on our own, right? Just to show you how simple it is, right? So all I do is I go to my draft action, I do a new, and the idea I had was, let's build a small script that retrieves the group membership of the user. Let's see what groups the user is actually a member of, right? It's just a one-liner. Everybody knows who am I, right? So who am I / groups, that's what we want to do. Okay, get group membership for the user, that will be the name of the script-based action. Now, assign to, it means what entity would you need to click for the script to be available. Now, we want it to be a session, right? So we want to right-click a session. Now, the execution context, in this case, because we want to run who am I, we want to do it as the user. So we want to select user session. Otherwise, you have different contexts here, right? So you can run it as the local system on that computer, as you can run it on the console side as your current user if you want, right? But in this case, we wanted to run inside that target user session as that user, right? And the security context default the session's user, okay? We go next. This one will be a CMD, right? So we don't even need PowerShell for that. Let's just do whoami/groups. Okay, so what I want to do is like send the whoami/groups inside the user and get the output, and which will give us the list of groups to which the user actually belongs. Okay, that's it. That's supposed to be enough. Now, once the script lives here in the drafts, it's in draft mode, so it means that you can only try it on one target. You cannot test it in your entire environment until you finalize it. Okay, so I haven't yet finalized it. It's in draft mode. It's okay for testing. Okay, so for one target, it's fine like that. Okay, pick any user, right click, find that script-based action. It already appears in the list. It's going to run inside the target session. Get us the results. And of course, you can run it on any number of targets. Okay, so this is the results of the script-based action inside the target session. This is the list of groups. Now again, it answers a question that probably can be answered with other tools, right? You can always spin up PowerShell and do an Active Directory commandlet or DSA and start digging in Active Directory, or you can ask the user what, there's all sorts of ways of achieving that, but I would argue that nothing is as simple as this one. Yes, Adnan?
Can you, besides just getting information, can you also like send a command like block something or
yeah, of course. Obviously, it's any script, anything that can be scripted. Okay, we'll show you in a few minutes of some more advanced examples. But you're right in the sense that so far the script-based actions that you have seen all kind of bring more information.
Like getting information.
Yeah, it's less about remediation, but we're working on many new examples of scripts that are mostly going to be about fixing stuff. Okay, remediating stuff. Of course, you can do anything.
Because the scenario I'm thinking about is if you're getting a process or something that you see as a security risk and you want to stop it immediately.
So killing processes obviously is the functionality in the console, but it can be scripted as well. Anything that you can script can be easily part of that. So okay. So I want to take this script-based action we just built and just make it a little bit more elaborate. Again, the example itself may be very simple, but just to make a small point on how you can change those SBAs to do more stuff. Okay, so let's just go and modify that script-based action, and we're going to add a little bit to the script. Okay, we'll add to the script itself a way to filter the output so it only looks for specific groups. Good example is looking for administrator membership, right? You want to see which users are members of any administrator group. So it's find quote. Because it's just CMD, so we can use %1. In PowerShell, you use $args and the PowerShell notation for the arguments. We'll see, and then we add an argument here. And in K, you have two types of arguments you can add. It can be either something that ControlUp already knows about that role, so you can show it down. This is all the things that ControlUp already knows about that session. Right? So this is all the different session columns. So you can plug them into the script like that. This is one direction. Another direction is that you can just ask the user, okay, to input some parameters as while by the user I mean the admin who's using the console. Okay. So in this case we're going to ask the user for a search string that is going to be included while filtering the output of the whoami command. Okay, let me just we'll demo it in 1 minute and take the question. Okay, so let's okay that, and now try the SBA again, but this time we'll see that one small thing is different. So we'll get the group membership. It will ask me what group do you want to look for. Just type in admin and go okay. So in this case you will also see what was different about the execution itself, because you will see the command line itself. But what I'm expecting to get here is the list of all the groups that this user is a member of, which the group name includes the words admin, right? So this is the list, and as you can see, what it did was substitute that argument that I passed inside the command line. So in this case, I'm supplying some more command lines, and I get the listing like that. So this is the way that you can make it a little bit more elaborate in terms of the mechanism, right? And you can add any number of arguments, of course, but you have it.
Could you create custom report properties in a script that another script will be validating as a parameter or an argument? We have a small script that is running a continuous task every time, but instead of running an enormous script, like build a small task that is just fetching.
And you want to have it as a column?
As a column, and then if it's another value that is the standards, another script or another automated action.
Yeah, thank you for that question. We're not doing that currently. So hence, there's a lot of script-based actions here that do stuff that should, in reality, actually should be maybe running on a scheduled basis and getting this information all the time. We don't want to become that solution which launches a boatload of different scripts, diagnostic stuff, because it can just become overwhelming. I know some of our competitors on some other products in the field are looking more into that direction, and then when you look at the environment, it looks like more resources are geared towards monitoring than to delivering the actual value. So we're very careful with scheduling stuff, but we are getting to something which is very similar along those lines.
Just a question.
There's it's very fair and totally required, I would even say, but we just need to, we're a little bit concerned with the stability of environments when you start to spin up all those uncontrollable scripts. So at this point, it's just manual execution, but we're definitely looking in some ways into improving that. Go ahead.
Yes. Also an audit logging unit for traceability, who's doing what script or?
Every execution of every script is audited in the event log. Very easy to pull the results of it. There is a lot of, it's audited locally on the machine on which it's executed, so it's not central yet. The next version of ControlUp 7.4 is going to include centralized auditing for, like really centralized auditing, not just local on the machine on which it's executed. Okay, so you've seen a couple of basic scenarios on how you create a script-based action. Now let's look a little bit on the contributions that the community has done to our script-based action store, right? So what was the community written for us? Can you maximize, just maximize the window so you can see more? Okay, so first of all, can you zoom in on this group here? Yeah, those the Netscaler stuff. Yeah, I think you all guys recognize who is the author of those.
I have no idea.
So, as you can see right away, like without even searching, right, we found some script-based actions contributed by Esther. So Esther has kindly written quite a few script-based actions that run on Netscalers, right? So they don't run on the Netscalers. What they do is they run, maybe you noticed before there's an option when you create the SBA to run it on the console side. So it's actually a script that runs on the console side, and it queries the Nitro API and brings data and leverages what the Nitro API is basically exposing to us. So there's a bunch of the Netscaler scripts here. So this is one significant and great contribution. Was it easy to build?
Well,
stuff in ControlUp to integrate them into ControlUp.
Oh, to integrate, yeah, because basically I could almost copy and paste the first scripts that I was already using myself for Netscaler monitoring and troubleshooting. You guys made it easy because you already store the Netscaler username, password, stuff like that.
Exactly. So one interesting thing is that when you execute those Netscaler SBAs, basically remember your credentials from the last time, and you can store them for use. So it just becomes faster. It just becomes more short times to resolution. So can you scroll a little bit more? So Matan has written some SBAs here. This is the Analyze HDX bandwidth. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So that's a script that basically queries the session like 10 times. And we have a column. Let me just show you a quick history. So we have a column here called bandwidth last and bandwidth average. So it basically tells you what's the current bandwidth consumption of the session. And one of the pains that we found that, well, a lot of people suffering from is the ability to actually figure out what's really going on within this ICA traffic. What is it? Is it printing? Is it audio? Is it what? And then the script actually breaks down the bandwidth consumption into the virtual channels of ICA. So yeah, that's a live Citrix session, as you can see here. I can open a YouTube video here.
Maybe
we have just 1 second.
9 minutes left.
It's going to take less than a minute. So as you can see, Eugene's sessions climbed all the way up to the top now, right? So it's consuming 1.5 meg. At this point, when we want to get visibility to ICA, we could just execute the script, wait for 10 seconds, give YouTube a bit more space in here.
I'll do it.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Eugene, you have 2
Well,
minutes.
this is not a
Stop.
good example of the video, by the way. Oh, there it is. And then you can actually see that my session, or Eugene's session, is consuming 3 megs, mostly from thin wire and audio bandwidth. So therefore, it implies that we are watching a YouTube video. Yeah.
I'm counting the total was less than that.
Yeah, so you take the different protocols that we can configure for the session into account.
Yeah. It's all coming from Perf1, by the way.
So, like on the one hand, probably it would be nicer if we had this information all the time without running scripts. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, not everybody needs this information, and retrieving it, somebody pays for it, right? In terms of resources, like some mechanism always is going to work harder if you're going to collect this data continuously. Usually, when you need stuff, when troubleshooting, it's like capturing traffic. It's like the Wireshark scenario, right? Wireshark, you don't want to run Wireshark at all times. If it would be nice if you could, right? It would be nice if you could record all the traffic and then be able to dive into it when need arises, but it's not realistic. Everybody knows that it's not going to happen.
But your system should not be like 40% load from monitoring
Exactly.
and 60% load from
Exactly right. So that's why I like the script-based actions mechanism, because it allows you to extend your capabilities when you need them, and not all the time, right? Because you don't need that depth at all times. So great with HDX good. And now let's. I actually want to use this opportunity to. Can you show the guys PowerShell? Sorry, the PowerPoint slides for a second. Yeah, sure. Something else. Couple more. Oh, no. More. One more. What do you say? Yeah. So, do you guys know this guy? Anyone in the room have heard of him? Okay, so UK people maybe. So I'd like to give a huge shout out to Guy Leach. We're working with him now on some script-based actions. He's a huge PowerShell geek, and he's doing a lot of very, very interesting stuff on PowerShell. He's actually lately has been building some very, very interesting solutions. And let me show you just a couple of them.
Going here or?
No, let's look at the virtual expert SBAs.
Okay.
Now, the processes context is the most important to me, because I wanted to see how you can get beyond the process level, how you can get into the specific activity of specific processes. Now let's go into the process level, and let's just sort processes by disk write. Okay, so it's all of my processes, and let's see which processes are consuming the most disk write, which individual process. Now, let's just take randomly this. Okay, the health service sounds good. Okay, health service doing a lot of disk activity. I want to know what exactly is happening. Okay, now we have a script-based action called the file activity. Never mind the name. The VE just stands for virtual expert. It's a temporary name for them to be sorted like that. But we're going to work on the naming. This is going to record the process's activity using procmon. Okay. Now, as you maybe know, the procmon utility is available for download with livesysinternals.com, so you can just pull it with a script. Now, what the script actually does, it downloads procmon if it's not there, it runs it locally. Now, maybe some of the geeky parts of the more geekier parts of the audience, PowerShell-wise, you can appreciate the fact that what we're doing here is we're constructing a procmon filter dynamically for that specific process, which wasn't a trivial thing to do because the procmon filter comes as almost like a binary file. You need to manipulate it in order for the procmon to be only addressing that specific process because you don't want it to be recording everything. So we're building that procmon filter on the fly. We are retrieving the process activity for that few seconds of capture. It can be 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds, whatever you want. And we are parsing. Procmon can also output it to CSV, which makes it easy for PowerShell to load it and filter it and sort it. So if you can just, again, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, this output, but I would argue a little bit prettier than looking at all the Procmon stuff, right? so as you can see, the top operations by duration, the top operations was write file, right? So 6 seconds out of my capture, it was busy with writing file. Which file? You can do individual operations, okay? And you can see it's the log, the EDB temp log for the Microsoft monitoring agent, okay? Maybe another example where the system is too geared towards monitoring, right? So, so you can see the specific monitor file. Now, again, doable with procmon. How long is it going to take? Is the process still going to be exhibiting this activity until you download it and run it and connect to the right machine? So I'm saying in terms of the speed of it, right, and the ease of it when integrated as a script-based actions, and also you can scroll down to the top paths by count, so you can see the exact paths it's accessing, and you can tweak this to look at registry. You can tweak this to look just examples of ideas, right? You can tweak this to look at access denied messages, which sometimes are interesting in procmon when you're seeing all sorts of permissions issues. So once you get the code, it's very interesting. Of course, any SBA that you download, interesting point. Any SBA that you download, any script-based action that you download, you see the code, of course. Right? The code is there, you can modify it as much as you like, you can share your modifications with the community, you can keep them yours, but it's not like a closed box, you can modify all of them. Right? Now, this is the procmon example. Let's take another one. Let's take an example where Wireshark would sometimes maybe come into play. Okay? So we're gonna sort by network sent to display the top processes that are right now sending data to the network.
What do you think? SQL?
Let's take the top one. Let's
top
go
one.
from the top. Yeah.
Proxy.
It's an RHTTP proxy. By the way, let's show the Google process name. So again, the thing is, many times when you don't know what a process does, what do? You Google the name, right? I wrote a one-liner SBA that Googles the process name. So right click, and it takes this and it's open Google. Okay, so it's a one-liner. It's a very easy, right? So it's a vSphere component. This RHTTP proxy. It's a vSphere component. That much we know from Googling it. Now let's see what exactly is it doing in the network. No process network connections. I want to see the destinations.
Yeah.
So process network connections, actually another interesting one that just does netstat and parses it, which is nice. But this one is going to analyze the traffic. Now while it's running, can you scroll to the code?
Yeah.
So it's going to be the process network destinations, yeah. And as you can see, this is the money time here. So it's running Logman, and it's processing this ETW provider, the kind of network provider, and dumping the activity into a file. So practically, this is Wireshark. Okay, this is capturing network activity. Now, can you let's see if it's already there. It's capturing data for 15 seconds, I think, by default, and it takes a few more. Okay, and it takes a few more seconds to process the information and output it for you, but again, immensely more simple in terms of the bottom line. They're actually capturing traffic. Now we get the results. Let's see what's going on here. So during those 15 seconds of capture, we sent 292 megs to this, by this process, okay? And this is the rate with which it sent data to all those different IP addresses. All of them seem to be inside my network, okay? And since I know what those computers are usually about, and I know what the process is about, I can, like in this case, I know that those are our components consuming the VMware APIs. So it makes sense, but sometimes when troubleshooting, you just don't know. You don't know if the server is listening now, if anyone's connected to it, if there's data actually flowing. So again, to get this in time and to get this within seconds, this is a built-in component. Logman is a built-in component. You don't need to download anything. You don't need to install Wireshark. So in terms of usability and readiness to use, this is very, very easy to achieve, I would say. Questions so far? Yes?
Are you going to do something with besides state checks?
Okay, DSC is an interesting part of this. First of all, I invite you, if you're doing some DSC on your own, maybe you can contribute some of your own ideas with DSC. We had some suggestions, but we are definitely inviting people to contribute those scripts and develop them. And at this point, I also want to introduce another member of the community who's been contributing a lot to our gallery of action, who is Ton. Okay, so Ton, you guys may know Ton. So can you show the script-based actions gallery once more? The community gallery, just to see the stuff that Ton has done for us. So the reason I think you guys should be aware that he's doing that is that he's always looking for new ideas on what to script, and maybe desired state configuration is another one. So Ton's scripts, the latest batch was around VMs. Okay, so some very interesting scripts that create snapshots, get the snapshots for VMs, because we saw that a lot of the customers with virtualization implemented, they always seem to be out of control as far as it comes to snapshots. Okay, when there's VMs and you don't know where, if they have any snapshots, they're consuming some excessive disk space. So this was one idea. And here's an idea, like here's an SBA that is an example of something that's not only querying information, but it's also deleting. So removing snapshots, you can do it from here. This is VMware PowerShell commands. So and as I said, you can always pitch new SBA ideas to Ton, because he's always looking for new ones to introduce to us, and of course anyone else is invited to keep contributing to this gallery. Now the last one that I'm very interested in building it and making it work. Recently we've been hunting zombies. Not only because it's Halloween season, but we found that there's a lot of cases in which processes become either suspended, or they live in a state where they have no handles and no threads, right? They're not useful to anyone. And sometimes, like one thing that they cause in the end user computing scenario, like in Citrix farms and stuff like that, they prevent reconnect to the session. So there's a session, there's only one process inside it, the process is screwed, there's nothing to do with it, okay? And since this session is not really alive, you cannot reconnect to it, so the new sessions get spawned and there's high session ID. So this is just one example of how zombie processes can be harmful. Now the idea is like okay, so we know that it's happening, how to detect it. We started to work with Guy this time to implement some logic. Can you show the code for 1 second? So the get zombie process is on the right over there. So basically it's just looking at processes and trying to figure out if they have no threads and no handles to the process. So it's trying to figure out which processes have no threads and no handles. Maybe they're of no use to us. So we already have a beta version of this. We've not published it yet, but we have a beta version of it. Can we just click a couple of servers and try to run it? Okay, so let's try the servers with the most user sessions, because there we maybe are more likely to find some. So just take a few of those. Let's take a few servers and see if we have. Yeah, so we have too many actions. Good problem to have, right? So show zombie processes, and the next steps with this is to sort of categorize them, because we already figured out that there are a few types of zombies.
We found the zombie.
Cool. Let's can you show it more closely? Okay, so if you you see that this process has no handles, no threads, and this user, can you see on the right if the user is still logged on or not? Because the on the right, all the way to the right. Oh. Yeah, there's no log off time. So the user is still logged on, but they have a process that chances are, if you look at it more closely, you will see it's suspended. Okay. Now sometimes you see those processes, and the user is already logged off, and the process is still there, right? It's still there in terms of WMI. If you query it with WMI, it sees that there's still a process, but sometimes when you look at Task Manager, it's not there, as far as Task Manager is concerned, which is another case of zombie, a little bit different from this one. So it can't be good, okay, if you have stuff like that. And here's an example of how to sort of diagnose it, and of course any thoughts that you guys have about finding this stuff and troubleshooting it, and finding it. And of course, this is a lab environment. Any real environment in which you do it, the bigger it is, the chances are that you're going to find more of those weird examples and weird stuff that you can solve. So, questions about this one, or any other suggestions or questions, ideas? So this is it from our side. Thank you guys for coming to this session. And anytime you guys want to come up with a new idea, now you sort of have another way of implementing those ideas and integrating them and having them work for you within just a few clicks. I think the skill-based action, this is what we try to achieve with it. So thanks you guys for coming.